Good morning and welcome to News Check on this, the 4th of February 2025. My name is Abdiaziz Hashim and the sign language interpreter at the bottom end of the screen is Lucy Moura. Our focus this morning will be about femicide cases that have been reported across the country, as well as addressing the concerns of gender-based violence. Given that this is the top of the hour, we're also keeping an eye on various events that are unfolding across the country, and some of them is that there will be a cancer awareness event that is currently happening here in the capital, and Joseph Wahungu is on that particular beat. The Council of Governors are set to address at exactly 11 a.m. in matters to do with the Devolution Conference 2025. They'll get to announce which county will get that particular privilege of hosting this year's Devolution Conference. And of course, our main topic will be tackling femicide and gender-based violence. So reach out to us on our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1 and at Abdiaziz Hashim 2. Before I introduce my guest this morning, let me give you a little bit of background of what has been happening in the country between the year 2024 and 2025. Now, in a report, 2024 was termed as to be the worst year for femicide cases here in the country, where according to a recent report titled Silencing Women, 170 femicide cases were documented over the past 12 months, a significant increase in comparison to previous years. Now, the report, commissioned by data analytics firm that is Odipodef in collaboration with African Censored, revealed that most affected groups are women aged between 18 and 35, with intimate partner violence being the primary cause of death. Now, the number are staggering to say the least, where according to also the Deputy Inspector General of Police, that is Eliud Langat, last year, clearly stated that law enforcement recorded 97 femicide cases that were reported at various police stations in just past 3 months of that particular year. Now, that's roughly one woman killed every day, which is very concerning. At the Nairobi Women's Hospital, Gender-Based Violence Recovery Centers has reported that the situation is equally grim, with approximately 4,000 gender-based violence GBV cases reported monthly. However, the true scale of the problem may not even have recorded, especially in the rural and marginalized areas that have, of course, these cases have not been equally represented like the ones in the city. Notably, that the figure does not include the infamous, also, you do remember about the Quarry murders, where the prime suspect, Collins Jumaisi, who is still at large, who escaped police custody, confessed of having killed 42 women before discarding their bodies in that particular quarry. Now, Nairobi County recorded the highest number of femicide cases, followed closely by Nakuru and Kiambu. According to the same report, 75% of femicide cases were perpetrated by someone they know, somebody who's known to the victim, including intimate partners, friends or family members, and clearly stating that alarmingly 72% of these killings took place within the confines of the victim's home, underscoring the deep-rooted and often hidden nature of this violence. There is also a glimmer of hope, where the Kenya's judicial system begins to hand down tougher sentences to the people who were found convicted, and the number of conviction for femicide cases in 2024 rose to 118%. And then finally, in response to the alarming rise of femicide cases, President William Ruto appointed a 42-member task force to investigate the issue and recommend the solution. Also, the head of state last year clearly stated that 100 million will be going to addressing some of these concerns. And the task force, led by the former Deputy Chief Justice, that is Nancy Baraza, is expected to present its report within 90 days. The initiative is seen as a critical step in addressing the systemic issues that contribute to the femicide and gender-based violence in the country. Now, to help us at least get a scope of what is happening in this particular sector, joining me this morning is Mildred Opondo, the Global Head of Women Achievers Africa. Mildred, good morning and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Next to Mildred, we do have Pauline Oguko, the Director of Motisha Dada. Pauline, welcome.
Thank you.
And then finally, we do have a legislator in the House, Honorable Cynthia Muge, the MP of Nandi County. Mheshimiwa, karibu sana.
Thank you.
And maybe let me start with you, Mheshimiwa, as I make my way this way. Given that you, in this particular three arm of the government, you serve in the legislative arm of the government, the President clearly gave out at least 100 million shilling to address this particular issue. In your view, the statistics that I've mentioned here, what could be the cause of this problem?
Thank you so much, Abdiaziz, and my fellow panelists for having me today here at KBC. It's always a pleasure to be here. Of course, it's not an interesting topic that we're handling today, and of course, I can't say that I'm happy to be here, but I am glad that we're having this conversation at a national level. And you've asked a very ambiguous question of why is it happening, and probably how should we tackle it. So as to why it's happening, it's something that I am also hoping to know why it's happening, and I am glad that President has put together the technical working group on the gender-based violence, of course, which is culminating to femicide. If you look at how gender-based violence is perpetrated, it is actually the epitome, femicide is the epitome of the gender-based violence, because it starts from bottom here. Emotional abuse, the physical abuse, mental, things that happen that look so small, but at the end of the day, it culminates to femicide. We have so many things because it has been a problem that we have been facing, and I must say that in the last 2 weeks, actually 2 weeks, I have had 2 women, Winnie and Carol, brutally murdered in Nandi County by their intimate partners. That coming from one constituency, which is a Aldai constituency, is not just a wake-up call, but it is also scary, because it tells you that it is just at the doorstep. Previously you would be talking about statistics saying Nairobi, saying Kiambu, saying Nakuru. We would be looking at it and saying that these are the urban towns, these are the urban counties. But it is in the village, a village in Kemeloi, a village in Kabwarek. Those are deep villages down there. It tells you it is not only happening in towns, it's not only happening in cities, it is happening in our villages, and it is heartbreaking. And I'm glad that we're having this conversation, so that as a country, as a community, as a people, we can be able then to identify what really causes it, and that we can be able to finally find a cure for it. Because to be honest, if you listen to the stories as to why so-and-so did this, if they happen to survive, because some of them actually commit suicide after killing their partners, you hear so many different and wide-ranging reasons, and you can't even tell what it is exactly. So there is no definite cause of the same, but we must, as a community, we must, as a people, be able to find the root cause and try to start to address it. Not try, but start to actually address it, because we cannot continue losing women and even men. Most of the time people, we are paying attention to femicide, but I don't know what we call the male one. I don't know if it's androcide or whatever, but we must address it, because there are also men who are killed by women. So what we are talking about is we must bring to an end the killing of human beings, regardless of whether they are women or men. It must end, and it must stop as a country.
Okay. Pauline, these are not just figures. 170 femicide cases. These are women who are killed. These are mothers at the end of the day. They have kids that they have left behind. In your view, even in this particular sector that has just been brought together by the president, what are some of the key areas they need to address right now, so that those issues can stop at the end of the day?
Thank you so much, Aziz. I'm equally, I wouldn't say excited, but happy that we are now voicing our voices. Just as you've rightly said, talking of 1 woman per day, that's a disaster in my own view. And working in an organization known as Motisha Dada, right in the village. Motisha Dada comes from the word motivator system. I recall post-COVID, the gender that was mostly affected were the women. And on this note, they're affected in terms of their vulnerability, issues of commercial sex workers. It surrounded women majorly, and I think that's where we birthed Motisha Dada. But what is striking right now, just as Mheshimiwa has also said, that even in the rural parts of this country right now, we are hearing women being killed. While I may want to agree that we have some men being killed, but the data in terms of women is higher. I appreciate the fact that we're having several technical working groups, and especially the one that the president brought on board. But in my own view, there is more that needs to be done. You will agree with me, what happened during the time I was growing, it was unheard of. So where did the rain start beating us? Is the family fabric, is it still there? Why would your partner, an intimate partner, kill you? Those are questions that are begging, that even as the working groups are put in place, as people go out to find solutions, we should start from the root cause. I'm an nurse by profession, and one of the things we always say, don't treat a disease if you've not looked at the signs and the symptoms, because it will keep recurring. Gender-based violence has been a topic in this country for a long time, and we all know that femicide is actually the extreme part of the gender-based violence. Is it that the structures that we put in place in the earlier ages did not work, that now it has escalated to femicide? And I will tell you, we are staring at a disaster, because my young child growing up is now making it look like, is it normal to kill a woman that you love? Is it normal to kill a woman who says no to your advances? Because what is happening right now, if you look at the news, what happens is that most of these partners run away to their homes. And it is there that the other partner follows them, kills them at the doorstep of their parents. The fear that now we are having in a country like this right now is something worth thinking about. So I believe, yes, we are trying. The president has put in place some measures, but there is more. Because for me, even where are the religious leaders? There are so many players that need to come on board. By the way, if we take it away from the boardrooms, then we'll get it. But as long as it remains in our books, boardrooms, then we will still get it not right. You've heard Mheshimiwa also say, and I also say the same thing, you do not have data from Siaya County in terms of the rural part. So how many of these women are being killed? How many are being silenced in that way? So in my view, something is being done, but I believe such kind of conversation is going to make us get the right course. Because remember, in a fabric, different fabrics are put at different areas. The structure that would work for Nairobi is not the structure that would work for Siaya in the rural part of Asembo. So that's the kind of conversation I expect maybe at the end of this conversation would be able to look into.
And Mildred, with that grim picture that we've just painted here, why is it not a national crisis in the country?
I have no idea why it is not a national crisis. But trust me, where the life of a woman is endangered, it should be a crisis, an international crisis. It's a global crisis, because a woman is everything in a home. One day I had, like I visited an elderly man, and when I got there, he told me, there is nobody at home. And I asked him, why do you say that there is nobody at home, but I've found you at home? And he's like, no, the mother is not here, so there's nobody at home, nobody will attend to you. So you can imagine if this person is not there totally, is dead, then the home is empty. Because the men themselves don't regard a home as a home without a woman. So it's just sad that we've got a lot of laws, we have a lot of legislations, but nothing is happening until now, because we still record deaths every day. And as you said, you just have a data for maybe the cities, the big cities, but you don't have the data for the smaller cities. And GBV is not just about death or anything else. It's about many things. Come economically, come workstation where women are working, come social setups where women are supposed to be intermingling with other people. You find that there's a lot of abuse, and there's a lot to be done. It should be a national crisis, if you asked me. Yeah.
And Mheshimiwa, given that you have a platform, Parliament is set to resume on the 11th of this month. Why not use that particular platform to voice that concern, so that this technical committee, as opposed to staying here in Nairobi in a boardroom, why should they not go around the country, collect the views of women across the country? Could you use your platform to at least talk to this particular issue?
Yeah, sure, Abdiaziz. We have used that platform a good number of times, and we have actually, as a woman, the women leadership in Parliament, we actually took off from Parliament as a group. We almost walked to Parliament to go and see the President of the Republic of Kenya. And that is why he actually went ahead and made a presser regarding the femicide that was happening in this country, and that is where he actually allocated 100 million for the same. Now, on the 100 million that was given, we have been able to make steps. We have been speaking to this matter, and I agree with Pauline here that we must take it to the grassroots. We must take it to the ground so that can be able to listen to the people. We must take it out of the boardroom, because the boardroom does not give us a proper view of what is happening. And that, in that way, we have a program as we speak right now that we are going to 102 constituencies for a starter. 102 constituencies across Kenya, to be able to call these women, to be able to call these men, to be able to call these chiefs, to be able to call these police officers, to be able to call these people who handle the gender-based violence victims in the hospitals, in the police stations, because you find some of these people, even when someone is dead, someone has died, and they're in the morgue. When we want to do the post-mortem, they don't know what to look out for them to determine whether this was a femicide or whatever it is. We need to be able to have this conversation at the grassroots, and we need to be able to talk to the people who are concerned. We need to be able to talk to the police for them to be able to look out on what are the signs and symptoms of femicide coming, or gender-based violence as a whole. So That platform has been of very good use, and we are still using the platform to be able to bring all the stakeholders together so that we can have the people who have interest, the people who have the responsibility going down there, going to the villages that me and Pauline are speaking about and Mildred here, that we go there and be able to see the situation as it is, and we move out of the boardroom. So that platform has been of help, and we have been able to, for instance, the money that we were given, we have used that platform to get that money. Because you know that money has to go through the budgeting process in the National Assembly, so we have used it effectively to get it as a start. I'm not saying it's enough, but it is somewhere that we are starting from, so that we can be able to have a better engagement, then we can be able to look at solutions that will last and solutions that are sustainable in this country in ending gender-based violence and ending femicide.
Okay. And Pauline, where is the missing link? Given that you've just given a generational difference, that during your generation this was not happening, now it is happening. What do you think are these contributors that have led us to where we are right now?
A good one, Abdulaziz, but I wanted to do a rejoinder and ask Mheshimiwa these pertinent questions. We do agree quite a lot is being done, and you've gotten a good platform. My worry has always been this. It takes us too long maybe to get to the grassroots. By the time you get to the grassroots, we've had cases and cases. So my take is this. Mildred here works with Women Africa Achievers, and that is a way. She comes to the grassroots to support groups like us, using her own transport. Why can't you also involve such kind of groups to be able to get you to the grassroots women? Because the grassroots women will tell you what is happening on the ground. I think for me that is a good move, but I think there's more need to rush it, because you'll all agree with me, part of why femicide happens right now is the slow response. The case of this Olympian,
yes,
she reported her life was in danger. But the response was poor until she died. And the most painful part of it is that the children were watching. You recall that they were throwing her, what do you call it, a blanket,
yes,
and the man was taking the blanket and telling the children, if you want to die. I can tell you that we are going to have a generation of children who are so scared, who are depressed, because those children cannot imagine. If she's a lady, she can never imagine getting herself married. So I think that the response towards the approaches we are giving should be handled, as my colleague has just said, it's a crisis, should be handled as fast as possible. Actually, this is the time that we need to ask our president. On femicide, bureaucracies should not even be coming on board. If there is anything we need to get hold of, get to the chief, that should be done. So the missing link is here. Our theory and our practice, at times, we have some slowness here. And maybe she's talking about bureaucracy. Is that what has made us reach where we are? Number two, to it, the missing link is right now our family fabric. Why did I mention during my time? During my time, our parents would sit us down. Me, I remember my mother did not know any other language except using either kiboko or scolding. But then, what has happened? Are parents there? A yes or a no? Are we talking to our children? A yes or a no? Because if you look at the ages that are died, 18 to 35,
yes,
we hear this slogan of Wamekula transport. Is this something that is okay? Is this something we can talk about? We hear it's the era of slaying. Is it something okay? So I think there is still also the little that we can do. And I can tell you, as I've told you, that when you take the simplest symptom, that my head is, I'm feeling baridi, feverish, and then it turns out to be malaria. If it is not managed, it gets into cerebral malaria, and the case continues and continues. Same with this. Femicide or GBV, once handled from the grassroots. I am in the village, and I will tell you that if a meeting is called in the village, and Mheshimiwa will agree with me, women always go and sit on a certain corner. So if I appear and sit where men are, it looks so abnormal, because that's not the way it's supposed to be. Women are supposed to be in a corner, so silent, dominated, and this is why when we still talk about girl child education, people say that we are forgetting about the boy child. No, the boy child is in the picture, but looking at statistics, the girl child still needs to be helped to be able to be economically dependent, because where the issues come from, when we get empowered, look at I'm sorry to use the Olympian case, because it touched me. She was doing well. The man apparently may not have been doing well economically. And that is not the only case that we know of. Most of the cases, even of gospel singers, they would always tell you that when I started having money, my husband started getting insecure. So it's either separation or worst part of it, femicide. So we have to look at this thing critically. Something got broken at the family fabric, and it went on and went on. The patriarchal norm that we are still talking about, and I would ask Mheshimiwa, we thought that the women affirmative action that gave us the women rep was going to bring the woman to the table. A big no. The woman's voice is still not being heard. So we still need to ask our leaders who are men to be part in leading this. Actually, these GBV issues, if the men would take a front line, then I think the women would be okay. So for me, that is what I would really say was a missing link.
And Mildred, you have interacted with some of the cases. I'm sure women come to you and address some of these concerns, families that have been able to lose their loved ones. So what are some of these lasting effects, aside from the psychological part of it all, given that we've just been given an instance there? What is the lasting effect on that family?
Thank you so much. I think there's a lot of the lasting effects, mostly where the children are left behind. These children are forever going to be motherless. So, and as I said, I first started that in a family where there is no woman, that family is disoriented in a big way. And from our background, from the social background where we've grown from, we find that most of the time the person whom we saw around most of the time were our mothers. Yes. So you can imagine if this mother is missing in this link, then there is a gap that is going to be created in the children as they grow up. And that one being said, I just want to come back to what Paulina has said. There's a big gap in the theory and the practical of handling GBV. And this comes in whereby we have so many organizations down there, so many grassroots groups that are trying to manage the situation, but they don't have any know-how. They don't have resources. They don't have support. Nobody speaks on their behalf. Nobody talks about them. And they're just there to ensure that this community, at least there is peace. And if there are children who are left behind, we are able to bring them up. And then today, when somebody hears like there is a certain amount of money that was put aside to help these cases, you wonder, where does this money go to? Because I've been handling so many women issues back in our village and back in our county. I live in Kajiado, so I have a lot of Kajiado cases. I've also worked in Wajir, where there is a lot of disparity when it comes to a woman, whereby you'll just even be taken from the school, go get married to somebody who is even 10 times your age, and nobody speaks, no community speaks. And you find that these people, every time they speak about it, they are against the culture. They are supposed to be excommunicated. And they're just parents who are just okay, they're cool, because this elderly person will bring maybe some form of dowry. It is kind of a comfort. But again, you ask yourself, what next for this woman? What next for this woman? Because women are crying outside here day and night. I wish our government will be able to work with the small groups we are having in the grassroots. Like on Saturday, I went to support Pauline and her friends in their organization. And like you find that there's a lot of things to be done. When you think like, Kenya always, people say that we've talked about women so much. Trust me, when you get to the grassroots, you'll see that you've not even dropped anything on that ocean. A lot is happening down there. They are so hungry, they don't have anything to feed on. They are at the same time sick because they were abused sexually. They contracted HIV. So they are sick. Every time they have to go for the resources, for the free medicine. And now that we are having the issues with the World Health Organization, we don't know whether the medicine will be coming back. We are not sure of what is going to happen to them next. But we find that there are women who sacrifice their all just to ensure that these women who are really down get at least a meal a day, or sometimes their children are taken to school just to give them hope that tomorrow these children will be able to salvage the situation. But trust me, a child growing under that environment of gender-based violence will not be the same child growing in an environment where the family is happy. These are two people. And these two people are supposed to meet tomorrow and marry. This person is carrying generational burden, a lot of emotional torture, a lot of psychological torture. And this person is coming happily thinking that we are going to make a family. By the end of the day, this person is carrying everything that the baggage he came with from the family and puts on this person. This person is also affected. And in one way or another, this person will be eliminated because this one has been a resilient in the surroundings. So he has all the potentials. He has all the techniques of survival. But this one is an innocent being who doesn't know how to survive. So this person will be eliminated. So this thing, because it starts in the family, there's a lot we have to do in the family, back at home. We have to bring back family unity. And I'm so happy with the Nyumba Kumi initiative, whereby you have to check on your neighbor. Your neighbor is doing what? Your neighbor came back home. Your neighbor is what and what? That one was good. But as things go, as the crime rate increases, we find that even Nyumba Kumi is not working. Because when somebody knocks at the gate, you don't know whether it's your neighbor or it's a robber. So when you open it, within no time, somebody has attacked you. So it is not effective yet. We need these policies. We have a lot of good policies. The mothermost of it is the Constitution, our 2010 Constitution. It is so good in human rights. I wish these things can be implemented and taken back to the community. We need the community back.
And Mheshimiwa, that's a challenge to you. Given that you'll be visiting at least 102 constituencies, will you be working with such organizations who are down there, the grassroots, given that they know that particular area? And given there's another issue that has just cropped up from this particular topic we're talking about, where is the education in all this? Given that this is the 21st century, we do have people who have gone to school, yet this issues mostly, given that we do not know the statistics down there in the villages, in the cities, major cities like Nairobi, Nakuru, Kiambu, these are people who have gone to school, learned, but the cases are still high in that particular region. So is education missing?
Thank you very much. I agree with my panelists on most of the things that we have spoken about, because really we need to work together, and like you have proposed. In fact, before you said it, I was actually about to invite them to be able to come, especially to my constituency where I will be, because this is what I meant when we said we will be bringing together all the stakeholders. So we need to be able to work together, use the resources that we have, so they can be able to address the real issue back at home. Of course, we have spoken about the effectiveness of probably the woman reps in the National Assembly. And I must say that, of course, we must work together with the men, and we must be able to bring all of them. But the woman rep position has given the women an opportunity to say the things that will never be said by men. And I can tell you this today, Abdiaziz, that there are things, even in the National Assembly, if a woman does not speak to them, the men will not speak to them. That is a very important part and point. Even in the villages, there are things men will speak to, but there are things that they will never speak to. For instance, the issues of marriages, the issues of relationships in the families. No man will be able to speak to it, because for them, when we say, okay, you need to probably have one wife and be able to take care of them, the men measure their strength by how many women they have. They cannot speak to that matter. These are matters that us, the woman reps who are in the National Assembly, and other women leaders in their own rights, like Mildred and Pauline, are able to speak to, because they are women and because they have worn that shoe and they know where it pinches most. So it has given a platform for us to be able to speak to these matters generally. Now, on the issue of, if you ask me, the issue of femicide is actually an issue of morals to a greater extent. And we all know that we cannot entirely police morals. And I agree with Mildred and Pauline in the sense that it has to start from the family unit. It has to start from home, so that we can be able to have kids that we're raising, kids that are able to tell what is okay and what is not okay. And we are able then to be able to bring up good adults that can be able to come up with families and be able to take care of their children in a good way. We have spoken about education. You know, most of the time when you're out here, education has replaced the good morals that Pauline is actually speaking to. That in the past, where I also lived, I'm not very young, someone can think that I am young, but I'm not. I lived in a situation where the parent was the parent. Whatever they say is right. And of course, there's not a parent that tells you the wrong thing anyway. And there were cultural activities that you would not cross. Like really, if this is a no, it is a proper no. And we would grow up wanting to be in families because we saw how our parents lived. We saw how our mothers behaved and how our fathers behaved. Now, that part, Abdulaziz, because you have spoken about education, has sort of been replaced by education. So when you tell them about those very good things that we used to practice in the past, they tell you, when mzai, umepitwa na wakati. These are Gen Z and generational things that are new, you know, like you are outdated. Let me tell you this, until we fix that part, like Pauline and Mildred are saying, we are not getting it right, because we must be able to bring up people, a generation that appreciates human life, that appreciates a marriage and a partner, that looks at the wife and looks at her as a helper and as a good thing. A wife that looks at a man and looks at the man as the head of the house and as a good thing. We cannot be bringing up generations that are jealous, that because Pauline got a salary of 500,000 and I have a salary of 200,000, we start fighting here and we get going, like we kill them or we chase them because they're doing better. No, it should be a family where whatever you earn or whatever I earn is for the good of our family, and it should be able to bring us happiness as opposed to killing the other one. And this is a matter that we must be able to speak out, and we must be able to speak to it. We must be able to tell these young people, we must be able to tell the people who are in marriage already, that we must endeavor to live. We must endeavor to have an accommodative environment for our children, even if it is not for us, because you've heard what Mildred said. The kids that are brought up with fighting in the house will take fighting as a normal thing. The kids that are brought up with threats of nitakudunga kisu will actually be playing, and if you pay attention to the kids that are playing outside, the words that they speak are nothing from outside. They're everything from inside. So when you hear a kid saying a very interesting word, you must be able to tell where it's coming from. And the family unit must bring back its glory, must be able to put back the fabric that we're talking about, the very good fabric, so that we can be able to have a better country and a better people. So education is a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It is a very good thing, and actually we are actually urging everyone to be educated. But we must not have education replacing some of these practices that we must have as human beings, the humanity that we must have as human beings. We must use education to advance this humanity that we must have and the progression that we must have as human beings, not replace it with the good practices that we used to have even before education.
Okay. And Pauline, the unfortunate bit is that when these cases happen, many a times we see people hiding under the veil of cultural norms. How do we negate that particular situation, or what should be done? Is it awareness that is missing, public participation? What is the missing link there? Because you're going to expect every day people to hide behind cultural norms.
That's indeed a good one, because where I come from, that's very key. In fact, in a term in our language, I'll translate it. When it happens, they say the snake has gotten inside the gourd of milk. So what happens is that they say, if you break this glass, for instance, you're going to kill the snake, but your milk will be poured. So it is better to cover it so that you still retain your milk. It's translated. So men and girls grow up knowing that if anything happens, especially surrounding gender-based violence, issues of sexual abuse, you hide it under that. But I will tell you this, and I'm happy this conversation is taking place at such kind of a time. Unfortunately, when data is showing us the voice of men is actually what will stop this. Because when we look at culture, even years back, if you read, men took a leading role in almost everything. Biblically, and I believe Quran too, talks about the man taking a lead. So what happens is that when men have receded their position and taken a backstage, the women have come in front with no support from the men, so it becomes a competition, as Mheshimiwa is saying. And this is the competition that I learned in a mixed school. And I will tell you, it was a very healthy competition, because he would beat you in mathematics, you beat him in English, and it was very healthy. There was nothing like even fighting. But right now, a woman earning 500,000 with a man earning 200,000, the society will tell the man, if she replies, it's because she's earning that money. If you have any issues of conflict in a marriage, it's because of that money. So for me, where this begs is that, like Mahesh have some funds, when they get to our community, like when she'll come to my place, I will have the men sit around. They will tell you what are their issues. Because the voice of man, and I'll give you this example relating it to maternal mortality. Sometimes back in health, we were wondering why clinic attendance of women was going down, but when men were brought on board, it was called BOMA, Baba Ongoza Mama Fuate. So what happened is that the men would come, then because they are men, they are given past preference. So the men who carry their wives to the clinic would get an opportunity for their women to be seen first. In that particular moment, we saw skyrocketing in terms of attendance. So what happens is that we want the voice of men on this GBV. I believe in the next panelist, let's have some of these few men talk when we are also talking here, so that we're also able to get the nitty-gritties of what would make a man that jealous to the extent of killing a partner that he loved. He told him once or twice he loved. Even as I said this, another thing is the integration part of it. Abdulaziz, HIV/AIDS taught us a lesson. I use these examples. When HIV and AIDS came in the 90s, it was a solo-pronged approach. The Ministry of Health was handling it. Nothing worked. But when it started being integrated in the Ministry of Education, and everybody took it up, we could see the banks even in the pay slips.
Yes.
They would write AIDS is killing. People came up, and all of a sudden we all got alert. And even back in the villages, everybody said, you know, this thing is killing. But before then, in my village, what were they saying? It is a curse. So people are just dying. So I believe femicide should now not be in the cocoon of any ministry. It should be out there. The media is shouting, the men are shouting, the women are shouting, everyone is shouting about it. And then you'll come to realize that the community awareness is going to come up. Last but not least, when you talk about community engagement, I'll tell you what happens in this country at times. That is amazing to me. I'm happy that I went and my organization is in the village. Very good initiatives like what Mahesh is coming with. But do you know the people who come? Mildred, Pauline, and Nancy. And so what we are saying is English. We go there, speak to. So those old women are looking at us. They're looking at our cutex. They're looking at our hair. And by the time we finish, we think we got a multitude. We didn't get. So this time round, we must get it right. Get to Nandi and speak Nandi. Look at that Nandi leader, who is the influencer in Nandi as a leader. That person is going to take that message home. Come to my place. Look at that old village elder. Talk to him in Kijaluo and tell him that he will pick it up and he will feel respected. And most of them are men. So you will realize that what we'll be doing is that we are involving the men to handle women issues. Then we will not be having where it's only women who talk about their women issues. When we started Motisha Dada, they were telling me, it's about women. I said, no, Motisha Dada is a sister. Abdulaziz, you have a sister, you have a mother, you have a wife, so you are motivating this particular person who is the other gender. So I believe we are on the right track, but we have still not gotten the soft spot that we need to have at the grassroots.
And Mildred, as we're coming an end to this particular program, there are other underlying issues. Aside from GBV and femicide cases, you clearly stated that you have been in Kajiado, in Wajir. There is the issue of female genital mutilation, early marriages. These are other underlying issues under this particular femicide and GBV cases that were recorded in the country. So what is your view? And in this particular, even as the task force is sitting to consider some of the views being collected from stakeholders, members of the public, should they be addressing this particular issue as well?
I believe they should be addressing those kind of issues because if you asked me, early marriage is kind of abuse to a woman, and genital mutilation is kind of abuse to a woman, because I wouldn't say like God was not right to create me as I am, and I am not supposed to be judged by my biological makeup. The way I am, it's just the way I was created. So when you think like you're supposed to remove something to make me whole, that is not acceptable. And that is an abuse to a woman. And again, also, because like I'm working with regions where I'm experiencing a lot of early marriages. I'm working with Kajiado and I'm working with Wajir, and trust me, having lived in those places, I'll tell you point blank that these are kind of gender-based violence. Because we rescue girls day and night. Somebody would call you even in the middle of the night. Somebody is supposed to be betrothed tomorrow. If you don't act now, that girl will not be there. So you have to go and get this girl. After getting this girl, you wonder, where do I take this girl? I have to look for a rescue home. A rescue home that I don't support because I don't have those financial muscles to support these homes. But every time and then, when I rescue a girl, I have to look for a home within these counties so that they can go and be there. And the rescue homes have also schools. That is the better part of it. The girl is able to continue with education. And if a girl had been taken before and the express that they don't want that marriage, we also plan to rescue them with their children. So you can imagine you've taken a young lady, a young mother, with her 2 or 3 children to a rescue home. You've added mouths to feed, but who is Mildred? I've got 0 resources. The government doesn't know me. I don't exist anywhere. But even the members of parliaments or women representatives in that county, they don't know what is happening. But you as a social worker, you know what is happening in the grassroots. And those issues, before you raise them out, somebody will ask you like, oh, in our communities we live like this and this and this and this, and you wonder which kind of community is depriving a young woman his right to education, her right to life, her right to even be free to do whatever they want, and marrying the person they want to choose, not marrying anybody who comes today and says like, this woman is the best woman for me and I have to take her. Whether she likes it, she doesn't like it, she has to go with me. So you find that we have a lot of issues that, to me, if you asked me about FGM and early marriages, these are a form of gender-based violence. Just the same way somebody would say that she dressed badly, that's why she was raped. And I would say point blank, before the dresses came, we were not wearing anything, and nobody was even raping us. People were walking without clothes. Nobody was raping each other. So why is it that today you tell me I was dressed badly? It is not about my dressing. It is about your issue. What are you handling, or what are you dealing with? So I really request that this one would go to the stakeholders, those people who hold resources, those people who have power, those people who know who and who, to come together. Like Women Achievers Africa is just an umbrella that carries small organizations. Like now her organization, there's another one somewhere, there's another one in Wajir. So if you come to Mildred, I'll tell you, I have somebody in Samburu that is dealing with GBV. And actually there's a word that she won because of GBV, the rescue home she's running. Yes. And these are things that maybe the government doesn't know even there's a rescue home in Samburu. So if they come to the grassroots and find that these people who are working, how are they working? How can we support them? Imagine they can rescue so many people. But because they're not supported, it becomes a problem. And I love what UN does. UN does a lot of training for the police officers to handle the cases for GBV. Because GBV is not something that we just talk about it and we leave it at that. There we have even victims, the survivors, who don't even make it after being raped or being abused. Because what would the community say? Will say, oh, she had eaten the fare of that guy, she deserved to die. Oh, she was dressed like that, she deserved to die. Oh, she wanted the wealth of that man, she deserved to die. So that woman will not even see the light. Tomorrow she will hear like there's a suicide somewhere. They have died. So we need to do something. A lot has to be done in this nation. We need to rescue a lot of people.
Now let me at least accord you 30 seconds each so that we can wind up this particular topic. Let me start with you, Mheshimiwa. Your final thought, especially on key recommendations that you like to front when it comes to addressing these particular concerns.
Thank you very much. One, I would want to talk to the issue of data. As a country, we must be able to collect data. We must be proactive and make it deliberate to collect the data so that we know in every sublocation in this country what happened and what was the cause of it. Because without data, we might not be able to address so many things, but with data, we will be able to address the issues and even attract funding. Number two, I want to take this opportunity to invite the men to be able to take part in this matter. I remember when we went to a certain county in this country that practices FGM, large scale. The men, when you speak about the FGM, that we should stop it, the men left the meeting, literally left the meeting. So I agree with Pauline that if we have men championing and taking a lead on this, we will definitely have a closure to the same. Lastly, we must be able to work on our morals. We must be able to work on ourselves. We must be able to work on our issues, work on our anger, work on accepting defeat, work on accepting rejection. If you're rejected, get going, find another one. They will say yes, definitely. If it is not working, walk away from it. Let us end the bitterness, let us stop the hatred, and let us embrace love so we can be able to have a society that appreciates human life and endeavors to have a flourishing environment for everyone to live in, the girl and the boy all the same.
Okay. Pauline?
Let's be our brother's keeper. Let's all be on the watch out. It's a concern to everyone, whether a man or a woman, a girl or a boy. So let's watch on those signs. If there are any signs of danger, kindly let's also notify. Let's also go for counseling. When you feel you're being jilted or you feel you can't handle that emotion, that's why we have professional counselors outside. I also want to talk to the leadership. Let's have more budget allocation on GBV as compared to other budget allocation, because this is a crisis. And so if we integrate it, then we'll be able to have our community structures working out. So for me, we are all part and parcel of this journey of stopping femicide and stopping gender-based violence, and I believe it's possible it can be done.
Okay, thank you. Mildred?
Thank you so much, and I'm so much pleased that we're discussing this today. And I'm so much pleased that amongst us we have the Member of Parliament, somebody who can be able to voice our concerns and also look for people in the grassroots and help them. I wouldn't say that there should be a lot of allocation compared to other things, but I would want to say like the allocation there should be like people should be accountable. If we gave out 100 million, what did it do? Did it get to the grassroots where these people are suffering? So that one should be a major concern before even adding the amount. People should be accountable of the amount they're given. And then now, my word to everyone out there, I want to say, echo your voice. And in voice, when I talk about voice, I spell each and every letter with its own meaning. Like visibility. As a woman, you must be visible. Don't hide yourself like every time you don't want to be seen, or somebody tells you can't work with somebody. No, be visible. Once somebody tells you like you can't do this, you can't go here, trust me, that is one concern that you should be addressing. That is a looming problem. Then you come to the ownership. As a woman, ensure you own something. And if a man owns something, ask the man, now that we are in a relationship, we are married, can't you include my name in this thing? And as a woman, if you are financially stable, also include your man in everything you are doing. That one makes you have power in a way, but also makes the man have authority, because authority is for the man. And once you start doing things like you are hiding and seek, by the end of the day, you'll find that the man bought properties and you're left alone. There's nothing under your name. Or you bought properties and the man decided like, now this one has to go because he has all these things. Then we come to identity. You have to know yourself. Know your strength and know your weaknesses. Don't overdo things. If you know your strength, then it means that nobody can push you to the extreme limit. You just say no when it is time to say no. Then we have community. Belong somewhere as a woman. Like now I've come here, somebody has known me, I have known you. Tomorrow when I'm facing something, I will call you and I said, oh, Jackie from KCB, KBC, can you come and help me here? There's something happening to me. A woman has to belong somewhere. Even if it's a rural community where you just come together and you gossip your own stuff, belong somewhere. It is important for a woman. Then emotional intelligence. Know what is happening around you. If the atmosphere changes, you should be able to detect it as a woman. Know something has changed and take action as soon as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That is Mildred Opondo, the Global Head of Women Achievers Africa. Next to her is Pauline Oguko, the Director of Motisha Dada. And then finally, Mheshimiwa Cynthia Muge, an MP from Nandi County. Thank you, ladies, for making time for us. And of course, this is the concern. And of course, all eyes will be now on that particular 42-member task force who are expected to investigate this issue and, of course, recommend solutions aside from budgetary allocation to that particular sector. What are some of the underlying issues that are leading to many women in this particular country lose their lives? That marks the end of our first conversation. In the second hour, it is all about the status of devolution. And any moment from now, in the second hour, we'll be taking you live to the Delta House, where the Council of Governors are expected to address us in terms of where the devolution conference of 2025 will be held. That is our conversation that is coming up next, so don't go too far.